Alright, so now we're going to take a look at designing some sub pages for our website, and then we're also going to improve upon the design that we have at the moment, because when we look at this design, you'll see here we have this sidebar. Now this looks good, however the problem is that when you view this on a larger screen, of course you're going to get more space on the right side and also the left side. The left side isn't bothering me because that colour can just keep on flowing. This, however, can't keep on flowing, so you're just going to have basically that colour right there, that slightly off white colour following along, and that's fine, but it's sort of going to look a bit wrong. Also, it's not really lining up with our page properly right here. So what I've decided to do is change this right now so that it will actually work better with our design. So go to the layers palette and unlock the div layer. I'm going to lock the content layer right now. What I'm going to do is draw out some guides right here. So I'm going to draw out a guide that's 25 pixels from the right edge, and then I'm going to draw out another guide that is basically 25 pixels from that margin as well, like so. Alright, that's done a pretty good job. Then we have the content width, which is going to be 200 pixels. So I'm going to move this across a little bit. There we go, 200. Then I'm going to draw out another 25 pixels from there, like so. And then another 25 pixel margin. Let's just get the accuracy right. Okay, so there we go. Now, because this is going to be a sort of self-contained sort of sidebar, it's not going to link with the top and the bottom. It's basically going to have to be spaced from the top and the bottom. So we're going to move this down. That should be 25. Let's increase that. There we go, 25. And from the bottom, we're going to put a margin in here of 25. So let's measure that up with our guides. Again, your guides are just so important. So, as you can see, if I was to select this sidebar right here and move that rectangle across, let's just change the color of this because I know it's very hard to see on the tutorial. So if I was to move this across, obviously the white space will keep on flowing, and this pattern right here just goes from top to bottom, and it sort of doesn't flow very well with the page. Our page is sort of that design where it just keeps on going horizontally outwards. So for example, this color right here is going to go all the way horizontally across the screen, and the header color and this slightly off grey color as well. So it's not exactly going to look right just having this plonked in there like a little sidebar. Doesn't work, doesn't flow with the design. So again, every now and again when you come back to something and look at it, you will want to change something about it. And then what I'm going to do is grab a rectangle tool. Now you could make this a normal rectangle. I'm going to make this a beveled rectangle because then I could put those nice rounded corners on there, and that's what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to draw this out right here. So here we go. That looks pretty good. Again, what you've got to do is zoom right in and make sure everything is absolutely flush. Again, what I'm going to do is change this right now. So I'm going to click on the yellow diamond. It changes it to those nice rounded corners, and then I'm just going to round the corners off. It doesn't have to be major. As you can see, this is only a little slight rounding. And then what I'm going to do is position all of my sidebar contents. So I'm going to lock the div right now, and I'm just going to check that bottom. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so go back to your layers palette, unlock the content layer, and what I'm going to do is actually select this right here, all this content, and I'm actually going to cut this out, and you'll see why later on. And I'm going to put this in here, and this is going to be called sidebar content, and then I'm going to paste it in to that layer. Alright, so I'm going to lock the content layer. Let's move this across into the correct position. Now we also need to position our content right here. So let's put in here 25. Okay, so there we go. It's 25. And so I'm just going to put that down. Now, again, our icons that we have here aren't looking quite right. So what I need to do is actually change the height on them. So this is going to be 49 and then 50. And now you can see that we get those really nice, sharp, crisp edges. And again, go back to the layers palette, click on that layer so we get all the content selected. And just sort of move it into position. Okay, that is looking really smart. Alright, so let's go back to the layers palette. And I'm just going to change the color back to what it was on the sidebar. So we'll change this to 245. And so that'll put it back to that nice grey colour again. Again, you could make it more prominent. It's entirely up to yourself. But I'm just going to leave it like that for now. So what I'm going to do is go to my content layer. I'm going to just unlock that. And now we need to actually push this away. So I'm just going to push this across like so. And so what I'm going to do now is drag out another guide from the left edge. And I'm going to change this to 25. And then we need to take a look at a few more things, like the header right here. So let's go back to our layers palette and unlock our header layer. And inside of there, what we want to do is put in a few links right here. Now, we're not going to be able to position this perfectly, but however, we can get a pretty good fit right here for our navigation. So what I'm going to do is budget this up. I'm going to make this 25 pixel spacing, of course. Okay, there we go, bang on. And then we'll put 25 pixel spacing over here. There we go. Lovely. Okay, so now that I've done that, what I want to do is grab my rectangle right here. I'm just going to draw a rectangle object, set the width to 119, because if I'm to do this on the calculator, you'll be able to see the width that we have right here. And again, I can find this out just by holding down shift, is 478 pixels in that gap. So if I was to type 478, divide by 4, because we're going to have a home page, so you obviously need a link for your home page, contact page, services page, and also the about page as well. So I divide that by 4, I get 119.5. As I said, it's not going to be exact. It's going to be 2 pixels out, which isn't a major deal. So I'm just going to hide that, and then I'm going to set the height to 50, and the Y is 25. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do now is copy and paste that. I'm just going to move it along, just change the color ever so slightly, and then I shall copy and paste those two objects right there. Okay, so now I have my buttons, okay, and this is going to be good for our alignment. So what I'm going to do is grab the text tool, I'm going to say in here home, and I shall change the color to like a lighter color. In fact, we'll just make it all white. And then what we'll do is just change the size. I mean, you should make it big, but what we're going for is trying to fit our text in here. And of course, home isn't a very long word, but such as services and stuff like that, it may not fit correctly. So I'm going to say about, then in here we're going to say services, then we're going to say contact. Okay, so everything needs to be aligned up, so let's go ahead and do that. And now that we've aligned everything up, what I want to do is just show you a demo of what an active state would look like. So I'm just going to delete this, and we need to select those and change the color. You can change that to a nice color of gray. And then this one, I'm actually going to change the background color to be something like a gray. And actually that sits pretty well. Again, there's not really much of a contrast in there, so you have to think about people with bad eyesight. So that looks pretty good. But again, have a play around with it. I mean, I've only knocked that navigation together very, very quickly. But I'm happy with that. It's a simple navigation and it works. So let's go to the layers palette again, lock the header, and we shall unlock the content layer. And what I want to do is basically divide this up so we have pages defining the content that actually goes right here. And the reason for that is basically so that we can view all of our different pages in one file and just see how it looks. So again, we're going to be using the pages feature inside of Fireworks, and that will really help us out. So what I want to do is basically, I'm just going to hide the guides for right now, zoom out, and I want to select my text objects right here. I'm going to cut those out. And then what we'll do is take a look at this content layer. Okay, so we have a few more bits and bobs in the content layer. I'm going to leave this top bit in for now, but you have to remember that on our sub pages, this isn't going to appear. This is only for the home page, but I'm going to leave it in because otherwise it'll be too much messing around. And I'm just going to change that layer's name to slider. Okay, so press F5 to go to your pages palette. And inside of there, what we've got is our page 1. I'm just going to call this master. Then what I'm going to do is add another page in here, and this one is going to be home. And so I'm going to right click, I'm going to say set as master, then we have our home page right here and our master page. So the master page again will repeat on all of the sub pages, and then I can right click and just hit paste and then go to the layers palette. Now you can see everything's cleared up. I have the master page layer, but again that's all locked, and I'm just going to call this content. Alright, so now I can create multiple pages and just change the content just to see how it will look in my design. And then I can't edit any of this by mistake. So now that I've done that, what I'm going to do is start to design the about page. So again, I'm going to press F5 to open up my pages palette, and then I'm going to create a new page, and we'll call this about. Okay, so let's bring up our guides again, and let's just reposition everything. So we want these guides over here. Again, we're going to have to really zoom in to see what we're doing here, and just move these into position. Then let's take a look at this right here. We don't need these guides, and then zoom in and take this guide out right here. So everything is in order. So what I want to do is, first of all, I'm going to quickly show you the wireframing that I've done. So I've just scanned that in, and you can see that right there in front of you. So as I said, I do wireframing, but I do an extremely rough wireframe. I don't constrain myself when I'm actually designing this. So the width that we've got here is 699 pixels. It doesn't matter about the height. If you need more height, then just add it in, but we won't need to in this case. So what I want to do is divide this section up. Now what I'm going to do is create a picture of, well, this will just be a placeholder picture for the time being, because I don't have, you know, actual pictures of people that I can stick in here. So I'm just going to create a placeholder image, and then in the box beside it, I'm going to put the job title, job description, and a few bits of, you know, filler text and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is divide 699 by 2, and that leaves us with 349.5. So I don't want that. Let's change that to divide by 3. Okay, and that's 233, so we're going to go with that option right there. So I'm going to draw a simple rectangle, and it's going to be 233, and we'll make the height 233 as well. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to copy and paste, move this across, and then just sort of align this like so. I'm going to make this a nice orange color again, so I'm going to slap that in there. We can change the tone a little bit more orangey. There we go. And I'm going to press Q on my keyboard to get my transform tool, and then what will happen is this right here will be twice the size of the actual image. And in there I'm going to press F7, and we're going to take a look at some icons that we can use, and it's not in this one, it may be in icons. Let's try down there. Okay, so you have a picture of a camera, and then we'll change the color of it. So select the symbol, then say adjust color and color fill. Obviously you could go inside of the symbol and change the color, but I'll just use the color fill filter, and then I'll scale this up, and we'll align it like so. Also make this a little bit darker. Okay, so now that we've done that, what I can do is say, okay, this guy is a web designer. Scale this up, make it white. Sometimes making things bold does help it stand out, but in other cases it doesn't. So what I'm going to do is zoom in right here and put in the 25 pixel spacing from the left edge and the top. And so I've done that now, just very quickly positioned it, as you can see. So let me zoom out again, and I want to put in some filler text inside of here. So I'm just going to paste this in. Again, it's always good to show your client, a little bit of filler text, because as you can see, it's just made this now. Before, without that, when you looked at it, you thought, oh, that's a bit rubbish. So always make sure you put in just some filler text, even if you don't have the text from the client ready and waiting. And so we'll do the spacing again of 25 pixels, and we're doing it from the descent line right here, which is at the bottom of the G that we have. And there we go, 25 pixels spacing. Let's move that into position. And then we want to go 25 pixels from this right edge here. Okay, so now that we've done that, just push that across, and we should really take a line of text out of here. So there we have one section, but as you can see, we're going to have to obviously make this a little bit bigger. So to save us time, I'd rather not make this any bigger. Just decrease the size of the text. And also, the text is kind of small. 12 is actually kind of hard to see, so increase that even more. And let's just make this a height of 180. Always consider the fact, though, that when your client actually hands you the content, if they're writing it, they may produce lots of content. So your design needs to be scalable so that it holds its functionality. So there we go, something very simple like that. Then what I can do is copy that and paste it below. And to make things a little bit more interesting, because at the moment they're looking a bit dull, I'm just going to swap these around. So as you can see, I've got a little button up there that says flip horizontally, so I can swap them nice and easily. And again, we're going to need to do a little bit of positioning right here. So I'm going to move this out to 25 pixels, like so, and then just position these correctly. Okay, and this guy can be a marketer. Then move that into position. So this is all about presentation to the client, making sure that everything fits nicely. Also, I like this blue sort of green color that we have. Let's see that. Okay, that looks pretty cool. And again, take a look at that spacing right there. So we may need to put either 25 pixels spacing or get rid of the space altogether. So we'll try both. So I've seen that, which actually, that does look quite a bit better. But again, you can see here that if I was to add another one, we would have problems. So what I'm going to do is drop this down 25 pixels so it fills that area as best as we can. So then just move it up once you got your guide set up. And finally, what we can do just to help fill this bottom area that we have, again, your design will be scalable, but I'm just trying to put in a few things so that it really does fit nicely. So I'll put another guide in here with 25 pixel spacing, and then we shall copy and paste, change the color, make that nice dark color, and we'll change this to 699. So that fits really nicely. And perhaps maybe making that a little bit less prominent. Okay, so that is the About Us page. Again, you'll be spending loads more time on this. I'm just slapping this together very quickly. So go to your pages palette again. Then we have our services page. So I'm going to change this to services. And this one, I want to make it a little bit more interesting. I want to sort of follow this column sort of design. But however, I'm not sure how it's all going to fit together. So we have 699 pixels space right here. So move that back over there. Put this back over here. So once we've got that positioning with our guides back, what we're going to do is open up our calculator, So I want 3 different service sections. So right here we'll have 3 columns. So basically we do 699. Then we want to take away 50, because if we have 2 columns, obviously we already have the spacing to the right and to the left, but between the 2 columns there's going to be 2 spaces, so that's going to be 50, 25 pixels each. So it's 649, and unfortunately when we divide that by 3 we get 216.33333 recurring. So what I like to do at this point is do 216 times 3 just to see what we get. So we get 648. Then I take that obviously away from 699. That equals 51 pixels. So I can see we're just 1 pixel out. Now, if it is this, I mean, I really don't recommend it, but in some cases, you just can't help it. Things just don't fit. But to be honest with you, most people will not notice. So I'd rather just keep all the columns the same width and the same margin to the left. And that way, when we put it into the code, it's a lot more modular and we can compress our code a little bit better. And again, when we go to Final Export, you'll be able to see all of that. So what I want to do is drop down my rectangle tool, and I want to use a beveled rectangle because I want those nice rounded corners on there. Change this like so, and this needs to be a little bit smaller right here. This needs to be 216. And again, try to keep it the same sort of radius that you've used right here. So I need to zoom in a little bit, and the way you do it, let's go just to the Pages palette and select our master page, go to the Layers palette, then we want to unlock the div layer and select this beveled rectangle that we have. Just make this slightly darker again. Alright, so I want to draw this down to where it stopped curving. So it's around about there. And then I want to select it again and just simply change that back. Then we're going to lock the div layer, go back to our Pages palette, press F5, and we want to go to our services. Okay, so now that we're in our services page, we're going to move across here, and as you can see, we're about on the money with that, so we'll leave it like so. Because otherwise, if this has majorly rounded corners, and this one doesn't, it sort of throws the design off a little bit, so we really want to avoid that at all costs. So now that I've got this at the right measurements and we've got the right radius on there, and again on exportation we'll take a look at the radius and whatnot in the CSS properties panel, and that will give us the correct border radius value. Yeah, 25. So I want to copy that, and then I want to put that spacing in there again, but just to double check you need to make sure, see that's just 1 pixel out. So there we go, that's 25, and then I want to copy paste, move this across again, and as you can see we are 1 pixel out, but that is tiny, minuscule. So it's not really worth breaking a sweat, as the saying goes, don't sweat the small stuff. And so what I want to do is get a nice grey sort of colour, not too dark, but not too light either. That is nice, I'm liking that, it looks pretty good. So what I want to do is, inside of there, I want to draw a circle, and just before we do that, as you can see I've got 25, and then I've got another 25 margin right here. So we want to increase this now by 25 pixels, and we'll do this for all of them. So we'll move them all up, and then we shall set the height to be 469. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at the ellipse tool. To be a bit fanatical, what we can do is draw out another margin right here, and then of course we can do the right edge, and once you've done one it will do all of them. And there we go, 25 pixels right there. And we'll just put this in like so and scale it. Okay, so after that you can just copy and paste into your other columns and then just line it up to the column. So select the ellipse and then the column and then say align, and you only want to align in the horizontal center. So now what I want to do is open up my common library by pressing F7, and inside of there we want to basically put in some icons. So go to 2D objects, and inside of there we can scroll down. Okay, I can see a nice little icon right here that I like, so I'm going to pop that briefcase in there. Then let's go ahead and take a look at a few more of these little icons. So what I'll do is grab the monitor, and then let's take a look at a few more icons that we have, and I like the RSS, so we'll stick that in there. So as before with these little icons that I had, I'm not going to make the same mistake again where they're not the same size, but I'm just going to line up the height. Obviously the width isn't important here, it's the height. So the height is 58 for the briefcase, that one's 54, so we're going to need to again constrain it and resize that to 58, and that one is 59. Push that down to 58. Okay, so now that we've done that, what I'm going to do is align each one of these icons up, and that looks pretty good. But what we want to do now is change the color to a white color, so I'm just going to select them, say adjust color, color fill, and we'll change this to white. So now what I want to do is put in some text right here, and you know what, I just want to make this slightly lighter, and then I want to change this to say something like business, if I spell business right, there we go. And we'll just scale this up because this is going to be like the title of the column, so we'll make this 25. That's a little bit too big right there. And then again, use your alignment panel and align it to the center. And then for this one, it's just going to be Web 2.0, something on the lines of that, and then social. Okay, so now that we've put those other text objects in, what I want to do is align those up, of course. And then again, don't forget the spacing. It's so easy to forget, so we need to go to the bottom of that circle. Again, zoom right in for this, because as you can see, it's not accurate at 100%. So that's 25. So I'm going to select all of these right here. And then what we want to do now is just put in a quick bit of filler text. So if I go to my pages palette and just copy out some of this filler text that we have, in fact this one will do, and go back to services. Okay. So then what I want to do is just push this in a little bit, and what we'll do is set the width. Again, the width needs to be, hold down shift 166, so I'm going to change that. There we go. Okay, and we'll position this up in just a second from the title. What I want to do is delete some of this stuff out. Okay, now I want to zoom in a little bit. So here we're going to go right from the bottom, and then we're going to put in here, just minimize this, 25 pixels. That's 23, 25. Excellent. And that's about right, but we'll just move it up slightly. And the line height is a little bit wrong, so what I want to do is just increase that to perhaps maybe 160, something like that. But before we go ahead and copy that, what we want to do is put 25 pixels margin at the bottom. This is for our button that we're going to have, so we're going to need to move this slightly down. Okay, so there we go. And then we're also going to need a margin of 25 pixels from the bottom, and as you can see, our button's going to be way too small, so we need to move this up a little bit, perhaps maybe not that much. Let's just go line by line. And again, if you want to just play around with this real quick and use my guides again, just to double check and make sure everything fits perfectly. And there we go. So inside of there, we're going to basically put our button. Now I just want to copy this style of button. So again, press F5, go back to the master page. And then I need to go to the layers palette and then simply unlock the sidebar content. There we go, copy that out, lock it, press F5, go back to the services page, and then press the layers palette. As you can see, this is all in one layer. Again, you can just keep it all in one layer because this is just one page that we have right here, and it actually needs to be constrained, so I need to set the height to 32 and just put that in there like so. What we could do is ungroup it, select that, move that across. I'm going to say find out more, and we'll make this text a little bit bigger since we just scaled it down. Really, you shouldn't scale the text, but for this example we'll just knock something together real quick. Also, this icon right here is wrong, so again press F7. Let's take a look at a few objects that we have, and I want to basically go down to the bottom where we have the plus button, and I like that, so we'll stick that in there. And so that is 19 pixels width, which doesn't really matter about the width. What we're looking for is the height, 15 pixels. So that needs to be 15 pixels, and again make sure constrain is on, so when you scale it down it will constrain the width as well. Keep that ratio. Adjust color fill and then white. Excellent. And I'm just going to move this across a second. I'm going to select this. The X is 59, but I'm not interested in that right now because the width is slightly different, but I'm looking at the Y, 776, and that's right, that's bang on the money. Okay, so let's just delete that, and then we can align it up in the center. So what I can do is just quickly draw the rectangle right here. Let's change the color and align in the center. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Again, you might want to change the colours to a nice orangey colour because it perhaps won't look right when we copy this all the way across. So what I'm going to do is change this now to a nice orange colour. This also, but again, I want this to be slightly lighter. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty cool. And so after that, what we want to do is pull out some guides right here, 25 pixels. For both columns, and then we can simply copy this. So what I want to do is just group all of this together again so it's easier to maintain our design. And there we go, find out more on all of them. Okay, so they're correctly positioned. So now let's move on to the contact page. So press F5, create a new page, and we'll call this contact. Then what I want to do is take a look at this. Here I want to put in a map image, so I'm just going to paste that in. As you can see, this is just a large image from Google Maps, and what I want to do is just quickly draw out, in hindsight what we should do is draw the mask first, and we're going to need 25 pixels from this edge right here, and then we can scale it like so that we have all of our margins correct and everything else, and then paste it in. And then put it underneath. You can just hold down the control key and press the down arrow or the command key on the Mac and the down arrow, and then it will actually go down the object hierarchy. And then I'm going to cut that, go to layers, I'm going to unlink the mask. I'm just going to move this into a position that looks pretty cool. Alright, I like that. I think that looks pretty cool. And as you can see right now, this is lining up with this bottom image that we have. So again, zoom in. Let's look at this. Okay, that is the bottom. I think I'm going to need to change the height again because we've got these anti-aliased edges. And then I want to click on the mask and scale it. And then once I've done that, what I want to do is then put another 25 pixel margin underneath, so everything sort of stays in line. Again, sometimes you can do that, other times you can't. For example, with our columns that we had on our services page, we couldn't align it up with content that was inside of our sidebar. So whenever you get a chance to line something else up with something else, you're better off doing it that way, but it's completely optional, of course. And then what I want to do is put in a little icon right here, so press F7, go to 2D objects. We want to go to icons. Okay, so I want that little pin icon, so I'm going to drag it and drop it. And then what we'll do is we'll position this correctly. So this is 25 pixels, yeah, and the top. Let's make sure that's aligned correctly. Yes, well, it's missing just one out of there, like so. And then let's change the color of that. So again, I'm just going to use the color fill filter, and we'll just use that nice orangey color. Or perhaps even something a little bit more different, because it gets a bit too orange. And then what I'll do is I'll copy this out. There's no point rewriting it all over again. So go to your Pages palette, go to Master Page, then go to the Layers palette, unlock the footer, and we'll just copy this out, go back to the Pages, go to Contact, paste, and I want to change the color so I can see this now. Okay, so let's move this into position. And okay, that looks pretty good. And then this needs to be a lot larger. So we need this to be something like 25 again, and we don't want to make this bold. And again, with the spacing, we want this to be 25 pixels, and we'll just line this up. Okay, so once I've done that, what I'm going to do is put 25 pixel spacing on here. Just make sure this is correct width. Let's make this 8. I'm just going to shrink the width of that text object, and then the guide should snap to it. Okay, so now that I've got that margin in there, what I want to do is put in a contact form. So what I'm going to do is actually section this area off right here. Again, I probably will want to put in a beveled rectangle, not just a regular one. And just push the corners in like so. Again, we need to take a look at the positioning. Now, here's where I've made the mistake again, which is that line right there, which is determining the radius that we need to put on these corners. Again, even though we program it, we need to sell this to the client, so this needs to be bang on for them. Okay, so maybe a tiny bit smaller. That'll do. And here I've lined this up wrong, so let's fix that. And we need to move this across. Okay, and so I've done that already, so we've got 25 pixels, and we just got that right border radius on there, so that's looking pretty good. But what I want to do is change the color right now, something like quite a darker grey, so it has more prominence than obviously the sidebar, and then we can add a bit of a texture on here. So let's go ahead with the crosshatch texture. That was pretty cool. I'll accept that. So now that we're actually constrained in the actual size that we have right here, what I want to do is put a margin of 15 pixels onto each side of this rectangle. So I've done that now, so let's just copy and paste this. Change it to white and bring it to the front. Or in fact, it still doesn't look quite right. Maybe having it a little bit less, like so. That looks pretty good. And just moving this up, changing the text to contact form, and we're just going to zoom in right here. So what I want to do is press F7, go to HTML, and drag out the text field Mac, which I've already got that symbol in my footer. So I've already used that symbol, so I don't want to replace the existing items. It doesn't matter because it's still left as default anyway. But now what I want to do is space this up. So again, because we're actually working with 15 pixels inside of here, we're going to change this to 15 pixel spacing and then draw these out accordingly. So we want the width to be 353, like so. And we'll do the same again, but just to quickly change the text right here, so we'll say name, so the user knows what to put inside of there. And then we shall draw down another 15 pixels, copy paste, and this one's going to be email. Let's go to symbol properties again, change to email, and then I'm going to copy and paste it again. Now really I should use a text area again, so if I go F7 and HTML and say text area right here, but as you can see, if if I put this in, yes, we can make the width correct, but the height will not be correct. It's too big to fit. So I'll use the text field, and then when we export this to HTML, I'll convert it back into a text area. And then we just want to scale this. Go back to symbol properties, change this to message, and then I'm going to select all of my fields right here, and then I'm just going to change. And then what we can do is put in a little submit button, which I'm going to make orange so that it really stands out, and it's going to overlap. So again, on exportation we need to remember that. So I'll just click here to get those nice rounded corners, hold down Alt or Option on the Mac, and you can just basically take the corner radius off one corner. So we just have that nice little corner right there, and this is just going to be like a little tab. It's just going to say send. And again, you can go into the positioning right here, but I'll leave that for now, like so. So that looks pretty cool. And just to gussy up a few of our other pages, I'm going to press F5 and just go through the About page. Yeah, I'm not feeling those line heights right there. I think they need to be a little bit bigger. Let's make that 160. Okay, that was pretty cool. Maybe a bit less, so it fits nicely. And I want to change that to 150 as well. And then let's just take a look at the guides right here, and you'll see that it remembers the guides for the page as well. As you can see, that's our bottom guide, so it lines up nicely. And then we go to Pages palette again. Let's take a look at the home page. Again, you'll probably want to add a picture in here. It looks very, very text heavy. But then again, don't forget that we're going to have this slider image on here, and it's only going to be for the home page. So, and in the next tutorial, we're actually going to take a look at exporting out the main design. So, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial.